This is the place, all right. Once we cross, it could all be different.
Let's go.
Hey everybody, this is Cameron, and I am here today with Camcorder Cameron to launch our first discussion about Twin Peaks Season 3, aka The Return. This is going to be a limited series podcast video in which we discuss every part of Twin Peaks 2017. Today we are talking about part 1. My log has a message for you. How's it going?
Good. I'm so excited to talk about season 3. So this will be my third time rewatching the season. I always discover new things. So I'm excited because so much happens.
Yeah, and there's so many connections, not only to the parts themselves, but to the original series, to Fire Walk With Me, to the books. I was thinking this is really cool for us to do because most discussions about season 3 is it's usually done by people who are watching it as they go. So they'll watch a part and then they'll come on and discuss it. But very few people have seen it as a whole, at least a few times, and then come back to discuss it, because then at least you have context as to, so you know what is actually something to talk and dissect and what is a red herring and what is, something that will come back to play later in the series. Because if you're just going part by part, you are dissecting every single detail. And then after, you've seen the whole thing, you realize some of that is just building the world and some of it actually comes into play later. So.
Yes. So for the listeners out there, just know spoilers abound. We know everything that happens and we have loose lips. So be prepared.
And just so you guys know, we are only talking about part 1. When it premiered in 2017, it was parts 1 and 2 together as a 2-hour feature. But we are only talking about the first part here because when they re-aired it, they broke it up into parts 1 and 2. Although what's cool about the Blu-ray is you can watch it individually or watch it as the 2-hour premiere. When part 1 started and we got that season 2 finale flashback opener, I knew something was weird because Laura puts her hand out and does the finger thing. In the season 2 finale, when she did that, it held on her hand for a second before it cut to Cooper. And here, it cuts to Cooper on the snap. Now, it's only a second difference, but obviously it was done on purpose, because if they were just taking the footage from the season 2 finale and putting it there, they would just leave it intact. It's 1 second. David Lynch and Mark Frost are definitely playing with time and expectations throughout this entire thing. So maybe it's just kind of a clue that you need to pay attention because things could change at any minute.
Yeah, I like that. I think it also feeds into the theory that this is just another alternate timeline separate from the original one.
I'm fairly secure in my way of looking at season 3, but let's start with yours so that we make it clear to the viewer and the listener where each of us is coming from, because we may be very different from each other.
I've never been the type of person to pursue discoveries online, what something means. I just kind of like to figure it out for myself, especially because David Lynch himself has stated several times that he wants the viewers to get what they get from it. He doesn't have maybe one set intention he wants everybody to pick up on. He's like, whatever you pick up on is valid, and part of my job is just giving you that experience. So I think I'm a lot more flowy with my interpretations. I like to rewatch things and feel something the next time I rewatch it. So I'm not really set in one specific theory, but I certainly have my own theories with how it all connects together.
And David Lynch has said that over time, basically that, he wants everybody to come up with their own interpretation. And I completely agree with that. That being said, I think that David Lynch himself has an interpretation.
Yes.
I don't think that he was just kind of like throwing paint on a canvas and just like, well, whatever. My interpretations have evolved over the years. And I think that's, happens to a lot of people when they watch Twin Peaks. But first things first is that season 3 is very, very different than seasons 1 and 2. I mean, back in the day, seasons 1 and 2 played like season 3, where it's like if you missed an episode, you were lost. And so a lot of people were jumping ship. And so Twin Peaks had this reputation. This was a soap opera that was very hard to understand. And, you really had to pay attention. And now you look at seasons 1 and 2, it's fairly straightforward.
Part of like adding to that reputation was because Twin Peaks season 2, it was canceled. The show was canceled. They never really they had a conclusion, but they didn't have the conclusion that maybe David Lynch and Mark Frost wanted. And a lot of questions were left unanswered. So maybe that left the impression of, oh, Twin Peaks, they're just trying to be artsy and weird, and they don't always know where they're going with things. Do they even know what they're trying to say? Well, season 3 lets us know that, yes, they've had a plan all along. This is where all the loose ends are tied into a beautiful stitch.
Looking back at the season 2 finale, Mark Frost has gone on record to say, well, the intention was to do what we did with the season 1 finale and basically load it up with so many cliffhangers that they would have to renew us for season 3. Instead, they said no. So, I also think that the missing pieces was vital. I think it was absolutely important that they were released because so much of Twin Peaks: The Return comes out of not only Fire Walk with Me, but the missing pieces.
Yeah.
When they announced that there was going to be a season 3, people were dumbfounded. Nobody knew this was coming because the Blu-ray set when it first came out was called The Complete Mystery. So we thought, all right, that's it. And then a few months later, Mark Frost and David Lynch dropped a tweet at the same time, basically confirming that there was going to be another season. Now, we had heard rumors that there might be another season going back a few years, but everybody was always saying, no, there's not going to be. People started seeing the numbers coming in on these DVD sets being purchased or the Netflix numbers. Hey, there's still something here. Let's go back and do something. And boy, did they. Season 3 starts. We get this flashback from the season 2 finale, and it's obviously old footage repurposed for the beginning of this new series. But I'll never forget when it faded out from the opening titles and then faded back in. That second or two of black in between the fades made me so nervous and giddy because we were about to see the first new footage of Twin Peaks in 25 years.
Yeah. Whenever she says, I'll see you again in 25 years. Meanwhile, and she does her hand thing. What do you think she's referring to? Like, meanwhile, is she like, meanwhile, we're trapped in this room? Or what do you think?
To me, I just felt like it was, meanwhile, all of our lives are just going to go on. It then goes into other imagery from season 1.
Yes.
We get the girl running in slow motion again.
Yes.
We get the tracking down the hallway.
Her homecoming picture in the school display case. To me, I watch that, and what it tells me is this place holds memories. Like the memory of what happened to Laura is always going to be felt in the energy of the school halls.
I think the whole opening is just to, again, give us this feeling, give us this vibe that we are back in Twin Peaks. And what I find so interesting is when David Lynch made Fire Walk with Me, there was so much pushback on him about, why are you still talking about Laura Palmer? Can we just get past Laura Palmer? Can we still, can we just do something else?
Never.
And David Lynch is like, no. And then 25 years later, he opens the new season with Laura Palmer, and this time nobody complains.
Yeah, this is her story. I think, like you said, it does an excellent job of setting the tone. Because the Northwest Passage, that is the saddest pilot episode I have ever seen. It's devastating. And just the way they edit it too, with this opening scene with the cross dissolves and the girl crying after she finds out about Laura, like those are all images that hold emotion in them.
I also love when we push in onto her homecoming photo and you hear the sound of the wind, and then the wind slowly fades out, and the moment it fades out, the theme kicks in, and it's just like,
yes.
We're back.
Bow, bow. That is the best sound. Yeah, I love it. I love that our waterfall is back and it's looking better than ever. And we get a whole like pan down as the water's falling.
Right.
Gorgeous.
It's Lynch and Frost are going to literally take us over the edge.
Right.
And it gets people feeling comfortable. And then Lynch and Frost say, okay, great. Now let's start the story.
Yeah, let's get right back to it.
So it opens with Cooper talking to the giant. We don't know yet that he's going to be known as the fireman. In fact, if you look at the closing credits of part 1, it has question marks for his name. Everybody has a different interpretation as to when this conversation takes place. Some people think it's the beginning of the story. Some people have thought that it's right before Cooper wakes up in the hospital. Some people think it's the opening scene of season 4. Before I kind of tell you my theory, where do you place this conversation?
Right where they put it. That's where I would place it. I don't have any reasoning to think otherwise.
I agree with you. And the reason why is because my interpretation of season 3 now, after watching it many, many times, is I feel like Cooper is on a loop. It's sort of like the movie Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray, where he just gets a little bit further and then something stops him and then he has to do it again. And so he gets further and further as he continues this loop, which is why I feel like Dougie is so blessed throughout this entire series, is because Cooper as Dougie has learned which machines to go to, which pie to bring to the Mitchum brothers, so that his journey continues on. But every time he messes up, he has to start again. And the giant or the fireman has to give him a little pep talk like, hey, remember this, remember this, remember this. And then Cooper starts again.
Wow. So it sounds like it sounds like you're describing a video game. A video game that doesn't save chapters.
I feel like this season is the second to the last time Cooper does the loop.
Okay.
Not the last time, the second to the last time. And we get a hint of why I'm saying that in part 18. The giant, or the fireman, I should say, says, remember 430, remember Richard and Linda. So obviously Cooper is getting closer and closer to that part of the journey. There is an excised line of dialogue, though, where the fireman says to Cooper, watch out for the 13th sycamore.
Okay.
Now they cut out that line, but so you can say that's not canon. However, when they shot it, Kyle MacLachlan as Dale Cooper is going to be playing that in his performance because he doesn't know in post-production they're going to remove that line. So keep that in your mind, that Cooper has to also watch out for a 13th sycamore.
Everything he says, I'm like, oh God, I need to write that down. Especially whenever he says, remember 430. You're like, ooh, I'm never going to forget that number now. And they're sitting next to this old phonograph. And so the background sounds are like this wonderful ambient, like open space sound with a little scratch every now and then. It makes it feel like you're kind of floating in space with them.
Well, yeah, well, they're definitely not on Earth.
Yeah.
It's clear by this first conversation that Lynch and Frost are not playing to the newbies. This is a thank you to the fans of just like, thank you for coming on this journey with us. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for all the love. Now we're going to just start where we left off. It's going to be 25 years later, but this is going to be done for the hardcore fans.
During the scene, you know how the people from the other place, they talk in the backwards forward talk, so it sounds funny. I always laugh whenever he says 2 birds 1 stone. Like, it just sounds so funny the way, I mean, everything sounds funny, but that line especially just comes out super hilarious to me. And he also says, it's in our house now. That line has always stuck out to me as one of the most mysterious lines the giant says. My impression is that he's trying to help Cooper, who's trapped in this limbo space. It's in our house, the home being Cooper's body being taken over by evil Coop.
Okay. I take it as Judy is making her way into their world, because that noise that you hear over the gramophone is also the noise that you hear in the woods when he's leading Laura. It's a powerful opening scene, and it's full of mystery, and it's one of those things that, you know, you kind of forget about as you make your way through the series. So it's good to that's why I always say that season 3 works better on rewatches than on your initial watch, because once you see the whole arc of everything, and then you might say, yeah, but how does this connect? And how does this work? And I don't get this, and I didn't like this. And then you start to replay it as you watch it, and you go, oh, the pieces do fit together. This isn't just, again, this isn't just sporadic paint on a canvas. There is method to this madness. Mm-hmm. You know, it may not all be intellectual. Some of it may just be something you feel. But again, that is all done on purpose. It's not just frivolous nonsense. If it was frivolous nonsense, our BS detectors would go up and we wouldn't want to engage with the material as much as we do. Then we go from that scene to Dr. Jacoby, now known online as Dr. Amp, receiving what we find out later are shovels that he's going to paint gold.
Mm-hmm. I freaking love the shovel bit. There's so many jokes that are set up in episode 1 or part 1, but you don't get the payoff yet, so you don't know the full context of the joke. But then when you go back and rewatch it, you remember, oh, I know what's going to happen with these shovels. So it's 10 times funnier seeing him get a mass shipment of shovels. And I also love the set design of his habitat. Like, it looks totally like he could live there.
Yeah. When it first came out, people were thinking that somehow he was going to be helping out the sheriff's department, and that the shovels were going to be used for some sort of ritual to capture the doppelganger or something. And obviously that's not at all what they were wanting to do with the character. It's interesting how much time they take with this whole scene of just him receiving the shipment. And again, you talk about his habitat. There's a lot of emphasis on people's economic. Even so, when Naomi Watts' character later in the series talks about how, you know, they're not part of the 1%. So there's a lot of people living in trailer parks in this season. And it's filmed so far back that we're not even quite sure what they're talking about.
Yeah, we're viewing it from the trees. It's like we're a tree watching it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of emphasis on the sound of the wind through the trees. It's funny because when you first watch it, you're thinking, "What is happening?" You know, this is the opening.
Why are we spending so much time here?
Yeah, and this is the opening of the series. And then you look back and you go, "This is hilarious that they're opening season 3 with this scene."
I think the pacing is definitely something a lot of season 3 haters will bring up. I don't care what anybody says. I think the pacing is perfect. I know how hard David Lynch fought. He fought tooth and nail to get Showtime to allow him to just be able to spend this time with no constraints on a scene for however long he wants it. So I like to imagine if he could have had full control, season 1 and 2 would have felt a lot more like this, where every single scene has room to breathe. Sometimes we're just staring at an empty room. Okay, I'm down for it.
It seems to play better for other people when they rewatch it, because now the expectation is gone. Now they can just enjoy what it is. All right, so then we go from this little shack in the woods to
The
New
Big
York
Apple.
City. We are introduced to a character named Sam, who has to sit there nightly. I'm going to assume just nightly. I don't think he's there 24 hours a day, but let's just say that he's just there having to watch this box. An acquaintance of his, Tracy, has brought him some coffee, and so he goes to meet her outside of the room, and there's a security guard there.
The furniture he's sitting on in his office, I guess, where he just sits and watches the boxed hole all day, is very stereotypically David Lynch's like furniture style. It's sleek, it's geometric, it's mid-century modern, it's gorgeous. I love it. You could show me a frame of that given no context, and I would say, yeah, that's a David Lynch creation if I ever saw one. And Tracy, she's played by Madeline Zima, who I know from A Cinderella Story, which is a 2004 movie from my childhood, and she plays an evil stepsister. So when I first saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, she's in this. There's a lot of that happens in this show because we have a big cast.
Huge cast, so much so that they were getting like names for even characters that had like 1 or 2 lines of dialogue as opposed to just a local hire. So yeah, a lot of people wanted to be in this. A couple things that I like is knowing in retrospect that Mr. C owns this building and is paying for these people to watch this box. He's the billionaire that Sam talks about with Tracy. Because Bob took Wyndham Earle's soul, and Bob is in the doppelganger, aka Mr. C, that is why we have the little bonsai tree next to the couch when Sam and Tracy are sitting there. Kind of gives you a little Wyndham Earle tease. There's a lot of Wyndham Earle teases in this series, even though he is never name dropped once. But there's a future episode where they bring in the Wyndham Earle theme. Most people don't even catch it.
Wow.
But then when Tracy brings him the coffee, you'll notice that there's Z's on the cups. Looks a little bit like 7, but if you look at it closely, it is Z's. Because some people thought that maybe she worked for the Lucky 7 insurance that comes in later in the series, but they are Z's, which of course makes you think about the flooring in the red room.
Okay.
So
I never thought of that. I was like, oh, Z coffee shop.
It very well could be. I mean, there's no definitive answer,
Yeah.
but knowing that where we're heading in this part, they talk about in season 2 that fear and love open the doors to the Black Lodge. Well, apparently lust also opens the door to the Black Lodge.
Right.
I do believe that either Tracy or Mr. C or somebody paid off the guard not to be there that night so that she could get in there.
Yes, we haven't gotten there yet.
No.
Because this is the first time she comes and the guard's there and she just gives them both the coffees. And I do love the directing in this scene. Everyone acts like as cold as the concrete of the warehouse they're in. It's so stiff and awkward. And you're like, do you guys know each other? Clearly you do, but the way you're treating each other is so bizarre.
Like when she says that line, like, ooh, you have me so curious. It's like, this is either a bad line reading or she and Sam are talking in code.
Ooh, that's a good theory.
It's kind of like when you go to visit your friends at work and their boss is there and you kind of are saying things in a tone in a way that means something else.
And when he goes back into the doors, he types in his passcode and she's clearly trying to peep the passcode. And he's like, oh, you're a bad girl. And that's a funny joke or whatever, but you're left with the feeling of, okay, is she just curious about his mysterious job, or does she have ulterior motives for bringing him coffee?
Right. And I think that's one of the things that happens throughout this entire series is who is on the level, who has another agenda. All right, so then we go from that scene to the Great Northern, and we are reintroduced to Ben and Jerry and Ben's new assistant, Beverly, played by Ashley Judd. Now, one thing I love is that it's the exact same set of Ben Horn's office, but they didn't have the space to build that entire huge Ben Horn's office. So it's the same set, but smaller. I don't know if that was done on purpose or if that was done as a monetary thing or what, but it definitely, again, plays with expectations. Like, wait, I'm back. This is familiar, yet something's different.
Switching it up, keeping it fresh.
So we get introduced to his assistant, Beverly.
Yeah. And as soon as she leaves, Jerry's like, you banging her yet? But that's a good one. Because he's trying at the very least.
Well, I don't know, because Ben Horn seems to still be on his trying to be good kick throughout this entire series, which I was kind of surprised by the first time I watched this, because I thought at the end of season 2, when Doc Hayward knocked him into the fireplace and Ben hit his head and was on the ground, I thought maybe he would revert back to the old Ben Horn after, kind of like the way Nadine went back to being the old Nadine after she got hit in the head with the sandbag. But no, apparently Ben Horn is still trying to be a good person. Jerry is now a complete pothead.
I mean, you could be a good person and still be a horn dog. I don't know if that part left him.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously,
this is the man who owned One-Eyed Jacks.
I agree.
Reformed?
But there's no evidence in season 3 that he is still following up on being the horn dog.
Yeah, and Jerry is about to go on the ride of his life. He's got his specialty concoction, and he's not just baked it into a bread or whatever it is. He's got the butter on top that's also laced with the 420.
Yeah, I do love it when Ben Horn says RESPECT, because it's oh wow, here's Ben and Jerry back just 25 years later. And I was a little taken aback by David Patrick Kelly's beard and the way he looks.
He looks such like a stereotypical hippie.
Yeah, and the last time we saw him is when he was Ben's lawyer, trying to get him off the Laura Palmer case. Much
more clean cut. And I love this version of Jerry. I mean, Jerry's always, even though he's kind of a skeevy guy in the original series, he's always pulling laughs out of me. So I'm happy he's in the return. And I love this version of him where he's just a stoner who wants to have a good time and open people's consciousness. And I want a nibble of whatever he's eating. It could change your life, it seems like. Oh, and he clocks it whenever Ben is kind of talking down about whatever his business is, making his specialty concoctions. Jerry clocks it that it's bringing in a significant amount of money. It's bringing in the dough.
We then go from that sequence to the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department, where we are reintroduced to Lucy, and then an insurance man comes, and this is how we find out that Michael Onking's character, Harry S. Truman, is no longer there, and that his brother is there, Frank Truman. Now, for those of you who may not know, Robert Forster, who plays Frank Truman, was originally cast as Harry Truman in the original Twin Peaks, and he couldn't do it for whatever reason, so they found Michael Onking. So when Michael Onking wasn't going to come back for this season, and we found out Robert Forster was, a lot of fans assumed that he would be playing Harry because he was the original cast member as Harry.
Oh.
But Frost and Lynch wrote it in such a way that they made him the brother instead, which I think was a really nice touch.
That is a nice touch, and they interweave him into the like plot so easily. But for me, this is harder to get over than like Fire Walk with Me whenever they completely changed actresses for Donna. And Hawk's there, Andy's there, Lucy's there, but there's no Harry.
I do think that they just changed Harry's lines to Frank's lines. I get the feeling like they just wrote in the fact that he was the brother, but he pretty much is playing the Harry role in this season, because there doesn't seem to be a lot of differentiation between him and Harry. They could be, again, one and the same. But what happens is by having Robert Forster playing the brother is we get a lot of time spent to how is Harry doing, and we even get phone calls with Harry where they're saying I hope you feel better and all that, which made me think, oh, they are definitely leaving the door open for season 4 for Harry to come back. And obviously that probably won't happen now. I mean, they could have easily said, oh, Harry Truman died and now his brother is the sheriff. But they didn't go that way. In fact, I think there could have been a way, too, to just not have any Truman in there and just have Hawk be the sheriff.
That would be so amazing to see Hawk be the sheriff.
And even though we don't see it in this part, there seems to be this feeling that while Frank Truman enjoys his crew, he doesn't really feel like they're a proper sheriff's department, because he keeps Andy, Lucy, and Hawk up front, but he seems to have like the real police in the back with all of the instruments and the operators and all that. So it's almost like, okay, well, I'll keep these people around because they were my brother's crew, but I'm going to be running the real police department in the back room.
It's good to see that Lucy is still ferociously loyal to her receptionist job. Nobody can get past Lucy.
Agent Cooper has been trapped in the Black Lodge for 25 years, but it seems like that has also created a rift where everybody's sort of stuck in time. Lucy, Andy, and Hawk are still basically where they were. Shelley and Norma are where they were. It's nobody has really moved on. Most people seem to just be stuck. We're 25 years later, but we're right back to where we were. Nothing has really changed. Everything has changed, but nothing has changed,
Old wounds.
So then we go from this scene to a hard cut to...
I'm dancing because this is my favorite scene in the whole episode.
We go to the doppelganger, later to be known as Mr. C. Only in this scene, a lot of people don't know this, but Otis is the only one to call him Mr. C. Everybody else calls him Cooper.
I call him Evil Coop, but
yeah, I mean,
C works. I want to take a moment to talk about the transition from the last scene to this one as we get, it's black or it's night, and then there's this like song that plays, and I love the song. It's one of my favorite songs now because of the show. It's American Woman, but it's the David Lynch remix. They used to have it on Spotify, and I had it saved, and I would listen to that and drive around to that song all the time. Please put it back on Spotify if you guys are listening. I need it. It's so good, and it's the perfect song for Evil Cooper. It's like boo, ch, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's like mumble words because it's so like remixed up. It's cool.
The moment the song starts, I jumped off the couch because I knew that this was going to be the doppelganger / Bob's introduction, just because of the voice. It sounds so much like Bob. And when Kyle got out of that car with the full Frank Silva hair, I was just like, this is amazing.
I know.
Because
it's so cool. It's like seeing Batman step out of his vehicle.
But tonally, it's perfect. And it's also one thing I loved about seeing the first 4 parts that opening night was the realization, and we all knew that Frost and Lynch were going to do this, but again, you know, how many times have we seen things that we look forward to fall apart? I remember watching this as well as other parts later that first night, thinking, oh my God, they're really taking this seriously. This isn't just Twin Peaks rehashed. This is Twin Peaks season 3, or I like to say sometimes season 25. In between, there's been all this stuff happening. We weren't privy to it, but now we're catching up with everybody as to where they are. And again, Kyle coming out of the car with the stone cold gaze.
I literally wrote down McLaughlin's performance is stone cold, and I'm not just saying that because of his cool leather jacket. Stone cold is the perfect description.
Looking at this from an actor's point of view, he had to nail the scene, because if we don't nail the scene, we do not believe in this character at all. And he comes in, and you're again, the only time we've seen Dale Cooper proper is at the start with the giant / fireman. We don't get Cooper at any other point in this first part, but we do get the doppelganger, and he comes in, and he just in his presence, you know that he's ferocious, and he doesn't have to do a lot, but he has this sense of power.
Yeah.
And so we can just walk up to a guardman and just knock him out with one punch.
It's a little combo maneuver he does so quickly, you don't even know what happened.
And then also when he's in the cabin and he just hits him that one time and knocks him out, or kills him, or whatever he does. But he walks in, and I'll bet you are the same as me as saying, like, not only is this scene incredible and masterful, I go, how do you create Otis and Beulah and this little man and a giant in the corner, and obviously Ray and Daria, they'll come back later.
Somebody's in a wheelchair.
Right. But you have this, little guy in a wheelchair, and then you have a giant next to him, which is, again, the whole, with the little man and the fireman, all that. But you create these epic characters, and they're in one scene. They never come back.
Yeah. And what I love about this scene is it says a lot without saying a lot. Like, it tells you so much about the way that the people from the other side work. I interpret the scene as this is a room full of possessed people. Like, they've formed they're like a weird redneck family. And they're also like very stiff, and there's just weird ways that they interact with each other where it's almost like they're kind of, even though it seems like they're in a room full of allies, they're in a room full of people where they don't have to keep going on pretending that they're evil, that they're not evil. But they still will say goodbye and do human pleasantries, I guess, but in a very distorted way. Like, whenever they say goodbye, they go and they grasp their hands. It's almost like it's their last time saying goodbye to somebody, but I feel like that's just some alien interpretation of how humans say goodbye to each other.
And Daria gives something to one of them, and of course we don't know what it is. And this time watching it, I was thinking the way Ray and Daria walk out of the back room, and she's wearing this sort of pink ladies jacket from Grease. And he's kind of like this kind of almost a greaser himself. And I'm thinking, okay, that's interesting. Now, spoilers, we find out that Ray is an informant for the FBI. So we know that Ray is a plant that is to infiltrate the doppelgangers group.
Well, he has them fooled.
Well, yeah. Well, he has to. He's going against ultimate evil, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I love this scene, and I was flabbergasted.
Time here.
That's what I'm saying. I was flabbergasted that we never come back to this little group.
And it is a quick scene. Like we were talking before about how many scenes in the third season take its time, let it breathe. We can be staring at nothing for a while, but this is so quick. And I feel like it kind of adds to like the sinister feeling because everything else is so slow in this scene. So much happens in such a short amount of time. And I love whenever Evil Cooper is like, you need to get a better bodyguard or whatever. Beulah just glances down at her unconscious guy and she says, it's a world full of truck drivers. And that is so true.
But it's also just evocative to the type of people they've been hiring.
Mm-hmm. Just lazy people looking for work.
Lynch is a master of letting one line of dialogue just paint an entire world.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't have to have 40,000 lines to make your point.
And he also does a good job of like capturing these communities, like very realistically. Like we're looking at a rural mountain community. Yeah, most of them are going to be like poor. Most of them are going to live like in trailers or small homes because that's the nature of these small towns. Not everybody's Ben Horn.
I knew he could be Dale Cooper. I knew that he could be Dougie. I mean, yes, it is a challenging part, but but Kyle has such a sweet, goofy side to him. I knew he could pull that off. I have never seen Kyle MacLachlan be the heavy to this extent, where he's of Frank Booth, of Bobby Peru. He's one of those guys. And one thing that I find interesting about season 3 is that he comes on so hardcore in these first few parts. And then Mr. C's like becomes less scary like as the series goes on. And Richard, his son, that we meet later, becomes almost the de facto villain of season 3.
Yeah.
But we'll get to him as we go on. But anyway, we go back to New York. Tracy shows up again with her 2 coffees.
Bodyguard isn't there. What did you do to him, Tracy? I'm going to ask her that. Where did the bodyguard go? She did something to him, is what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think she paid him off.
Because he says, yeah, you can come in, but I don't know what she'll do if the guard comes back. She says, let's not waste this opportunity. And she says it so confidently, you just know that she's not worried about that happening at all.
Yeah. Although it would have been great if someone had come back and he had to like put her in the box and she got zapped somewhere.
Yeah, but she was a sacrifice.
Yeah, so she gets on the couch. Again, we see the bonsai tree, a little nod to Wyndham Earl there. And they start making out. And
we get some good dialogue before the makeout where she's asking about the job. And he's like, yeah, the guy who worked here before me, like, he won't tell me about what exactly happened, but he was really freaked out and he saw something that changed him. He says something along the lines of that. And why you would want to make out in this room after hearing that is beyond me, but okay, girl.
Well, yeah, he says, I don't know if he saw something or he didn't see something, but, he didn't say anything about it.
And it's a creepy building with concrete floors and walls in this box, which the hole in the wall is kind of like a window. I just don't know. She was just being crazy. She was in her crazy girl era. Why she got like butt naked in this office place and there's so many cameras everywhere.
That's what I was just going to say. I was just going to say, you're going to just be the first one to strip head to toe with 45 cameras in this building.
That's why I also think that she like maybe was working for somebody and she was like hired to be here and like get some intelligence. But I love this scene because she always seems so mysterious and suspicious to me, but then she just gets killed off. So it's like, doesn't matter if she was, evil or not. Doesn't matter either way.
The way I have been looking at it lately is that the doppelganger knew that if they hooked up, it might bring Judy or the Black Lodge
Oh.
into the box. That's why I was saying, like, if fear and love open the doors, maybe lust does too. Give them a situation where they can hook up in front of the box. It will
Yeah, I
generate.
like that theory that Evil Cooper hired her. That's kind of genius because then, like you said, I think earlier, and it went over my head, then Evil Cooper could just tell the guard to step away.
Right. Or
Yeah.
or pay him not to come that night.
Yeah.
Or give her the money to pay him off. I don't know. I mean, something happened for the guard not to be there.
Well, she's not getting paid.
Neither Sam.
This scene is so reminiscent of like classic horror. You know, this happens in every slasher movie I've ever seen. Somebody does the deed and the killer comes. Because while they're making out and doing all that stuff, the figure appears in the box and they see it. And it looks very humanoid. It's like grayscale, but it also looks very alien at the same time with this wide gaping mouth that appears to be like screaming. And I love the way it flies at the glass like a moth trying to reach a light. It's so creepy. And then whenever it like jitters, it kind of gives you, like, if you're scared of bugs, it gives you that same feeling of like, ugh, get away from me. And then when it finally busts out to demolish them, the way they designed the kill scene is gorgeous to me. It's like a cloud of smoke because it goes from being this embodied figure to when it busts out, it's a foggy cloud and then blood sprays everywhere and they die. It's a very artful kill scene.
Very bloody, though.
Yeah.
You know how in the original Halloween, he's known as Michael Myers, but then at other points, he's also known as the Shape?
Mm.
I feel like that's what's happening here as well. That is Judy in her pure form, but in the credits, they didn't want to say Judy, so they say the experiment.
The experiment.
The only reason why I say that is because in part 8, we see the same figure floating through space and is birthing all the bubbles with Bob and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I just subscribe this is a Judy form.
I never thought about it being Judy before, but I like that idea.
Once Judy bursts out of the glass, this is when I feel like it goes to Sarah Palmer. Because you were just saying it's like a moth going to a light.
Mm-hmm.
Because Sarah Palmer has the frog moth dissolved inside of her that has given her the visions that we hear about in seasons 1 and 2 and in Fire Walk with Me, that now that Judy escapes, it now knows where to go because Sarah Palmer with the dissolved frog moth is the beacon. And so when we then cut to Sarah Palmer in part 2, that is when I feel like Sarah Palmer is infused with Judy. I don't think that.
I definitely agree that this entity is the same thing that goes inside her mouth.
Now, there's some people that think that she was Judy the entire time in seasons 1 and 2 and Fire Walk with Me. And I can't go along with that because the doppelganger with Bob inside of him is searching for Judy this entire season. And if he was married to Judy, then why would he be looking for her? You know, I feel like Sarah just had the frog moth inside of her. And until this being bursts out of the glass, she's not fully Judy inside of her. So if you go by Albert's realization that Bob is the evil that men do, then Judy inside Sarah is sort of how pain and regret can eat you alive from the inside.
Yeah. Yeah. Depression. It can be a depression metaphor.
Absolutely. The fact that she's just watching the same things every night in the dark.
We'll get into it more whenever we get there. Absolutely. Because there's a lot to say.
All right. So then we cut to Buckhorn, South Dakota. And
I love this sequence.
I remember the first night people thinking, are we ever going to Twin Peaks? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But I think that one thing that Frost and Lynch is saying that Twin Peaks is not just this town.
Magical town.
It's the world.
Yeah.
There's
portals everywhere. Yeah.
Right. You don't just have to go through the woods of Twin Peaks to get to Glastonbury Grove, you can enter other places as well. So yeah, we get to Buckhorn, South Dakota. We are introduced to, it's kind of funny, a Marjorie Green. not the crazy MAGA Marjorie Taylor Greene, but Marjorie Green. And she's
and her tiny dog named Armstrong.
She's trying to find her neighbor Ruth Davenport, and then the cops get involved, and we get introduced to the maintenance man, Hank Fillmore. And some people would say, why are we spending so much time in this scene? But again, I feel like it's Lynch and Frost creating a world, getting us to buy into that world. I also think that they love process. So the idea of like the cops show up and it's like, oh, we don't have a key. Okay, get a locksmith. Oh no, we can talk to this maintenance person. But this maintenance person is also like in his own little storyline right? Yeah. And so it's like, it has really nothing to do with anything except to create this world that everybody's on their own journey. I love it. I think when you first watch it, you're thinking, okay, yeah, all right. Wow, this is really taking a while.
This is one long joke. And if you don't think it's funny the first time, you're not going to like it the next time whenever she realizes that she has the keys,
Right.
Exactly. I love how, like, the whole joke is that she's, like, so worried about what happened to her neighbor Ruth, but she's very helpless and she just doesn't think ahead, or she doesn't think of the obvious things to help out the officers. She wants to help them, but it's like it takes her a minute to get there. And I love how she's like holding her little baby Armstrong in her arm, and Armstrong looks so meek and confused about where he is. And whenever the officer calls it in, he says, possible 1054. And she says, no, it's 1349. Like the apartment number.
Right.
That is so good.
This is the first part of this new 18-part series. It needs to create a sense of reality as well as unreality. And so you're just kind of in this... I mean, I take it very serious and I take it very straightforward as well, but it's also very dreamlike. It's this, but it's also filmed not dreamlike. Like a lot of this part is filmed very just straightforward, right? It's like, here's two cops in a hallway, then they get in the apartment and they find
and whenever the cop leaves he's like the handyman out there who, when he sees the cops, you're like, oh, he's obviously so suspicious because he's like, who told you that I'm here? But whenever the officers walk away, he's like, am I free to go? Gentlemen, am I free to go? Like, that is so funny. Like, this is just my kind of humor. I love it. They clearly have like some scheme going on that we're not privy to yet. He's got a bag of what you can assume is money. Him and some guy named Chip work together with Barry as like a crime group. I don't know exactly what they're doing here, but it's happening.
Yeah, I think that Lynch really likes to throw a bunch of random names at us sometimes and just kind of paint a scenario. You get this a lot in the Roadhouse conversations later in the series, where it's just it's a lot of names and it really doesn't matter, but people are all up to something.
Like it could somewhat be connected because, he's got his money and he's talking on the phone to Barry and he's like, no, you don't get a cut because you didn't want to be a part of this one. And because he's at the same apartment complex and the cops are there and he's paranoid about that, you're like, did he have something to do with Ruth? Did he steal her money? What's happening here? But I don't think he has anything to do with Ruth.
No, I think it's just
in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Exactly. I think it's another scheme happening. But because the cops are there, it's making him paranoid about it.
Yeah.
But I think
love that we have the time here in season 3 to go down all these crazy hijinks.
I agree, because in Fire Walk with Me, Lynch had to cut out so much of this extraneous stuff to get it pared down to Laura's story for the runtime that he had to have, 135 minutes. Here, he could take his time. But again, it does what may seem overlong the first time you see it. When you go back and watch it and you now know what it is, it's actually paced very, very well.
Yeah.
It's just the first time you see it, you don't know where it's going. And so you're kind of like, why are we spending so much time here? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? And then when you go back and watch it, especially a few times later, you go, wow, actually this is edited very well. This isn't just some long drawn out thing. It's actually paced. They get into the apartment and they discover Ruth's head detached from a male's body that we will later learn is Major Briggs's body. And we are introduced to two characters, Constance, one of my favorites, and Dave, played by Brent Briscoe, who was in Mulholland Drive.
As soon as I step in the apartment, like my stomach sinks every time, because to me, this is the most gruesome part of the episode. It's more gruesome than the murder scene to me, just the design of the body. Like, first of all, you don't see the full reveal of the body. You just see her head uncovered with a blanket, and she's missing an eye, and it looks like a crater in her head. It's disgusting. And then when they pull the blanket all the way down, and you don't know what it is yet, it looks like, her decapitated head, and it looks like a troll body because it's so much bigger than what you would expect of, like, the size of the head, and it's all swollen up and decaying. It's absolutely nasty. So that's all I can think about when I see this. But I do like how you can tell the detectives, the crime scene investigators, I don't remember their name. Mm-hmm. They have like a rapport. They have a history with each other.
The way the head and the body is, it reminds me a lot of one of Lynch's other obsessions, the Black Dahlia, which was a young woman in the 1940s, and they found her completely dismembered. Interesting story. David Lynch died on the same day that the Black Dahlia died. So he was obsessed by this crime case, and then he died on the exact same day that Elizabeth did.
It's all connected. Oh, yeah. And one more thing. This gruesome body discovery scene immediately gets cut to that handyman who's so paranoid outside going, Barney, you son of a bitch, did you tell them I was here? Like, that is just like humor at its finest. I love it.
As I said earlier, we are introduced to a character, Constance, who will later play a role in the series as being Albert's dinner date. And so she is somebody who obviously can appeal to Albert, which is something we never see anyone do in this series. All right, so we go from this sequence to an overhead shot of the Pacific Northwest trees. It starts where we're close to the trees, and then we go over the ledge and we see a world of trees. And then we are reintroduced to Margaret Lanterman, aka the Log Lady, and she's talking to Hawk. And this part at the end says it's dedicated to Catherine Coulson. So I assumed the first time I saw this that this was her last scene. But then as you watch the series, you realize, no, she's actually in this a lot more. Mm-hmm. And they actually give the character like an actual farewell. I know a lot of people who think that her scenes are some of the hardest to watch. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, I was going to say that. Like, not that they're the hardest for me to watch, but every single scene of her like brings tears to my eyes because she just looks so frail, and her heart and her emotions just seem so full of despair. Maybe she's just like acting really well, and it's hard to see a super old person act that good. I don't know. It like kills me.
And the fact that she passed away just a couple days after she filmed these scenes.
Yeah.
When I heard that she was filming her scenes separate from the rest of the cast, I thought because the original series, when they remastered it for Blu-ray, they put the Log Lady introductions in front of them and remastered them in HD. I thought maybe Lynch was shooting Log Lady introductions for this entire series.
That would have been good. Except they would just be a total downer because, like I said, like she just seems so sad and delicate.
Yeah. But when I thought that that's what they were going to do when I heard they were filming her separate. Obviously, that's not what they did. But
yeah,
there is a feeling that she calls Hawk almost nightly.
Oh, Hawk. Like the way she says it, I love it.
But he is very patient with her. He's not trying to, get her off the phone. And
he respects her so much.
Yeah,
He respects her, and he respects the log.
absolutely.
That log never tells a lie either.
I think it's interesting when she says the logs tells me that this has something to do with your
heritage.
Because
I always thought maybe it was just like she was talking, or the log was talking about the spiritual like element. That like, okay, we're not dealing with a cold or like a detective case. This is more ethereal than that.
I want to get on board with that theory. All right, then we cut to back to South Dakota. Constance is running the prince, and she hits upon Bill Hastings, the principal of her kid's school, who, if you notice, lives on Elm Street. And I always thought there was a connection between Laura's house and Nancy's house in Nightmare on Elm Street. It seems to be very similar.
And he's played by Matthew Lillard.
He understood the assignment.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you're aware of this, but with the exception of Kyle MacLachlan, everybody else only got their scenes. Mm-hmm. So they have no idea how it was going to play into the rest of the story. Just in case somebody said something, it didn't spoil the whole series. So Matthew Lillard delivers this performance knowing nothing but the scenes he's in.
Yeah.
And he brings it like 110%.
He brings it in every single one of his roles. He does. I mean, I grew up with him being my Shaggy in Scooby-Doo. And then when I got a little bit older and I watched Scream for the first time, I loved him in that. Like, he can really play a good role. And I think this is also brilliant casting to have him play Bill Hastings is his name. Mm-hmm. Because, if you've seen Scream, we know him from Scream. He's really good at playing innocent. He turns out to be one of the killers in Scream, but you don't suspect him the whole time because he's so good at being like, oh, I don't know. So whenever he's getting questioned and he's like really concerned and you haven't seen the show before, you're like, oh my God, is he just playing innocent like I know he can? Or is he really evil like I know he can from Scream?
Yeah. He's also really great in a film called SLC Punk.
I love that movie. Yes. So Bill Hastings, he gets arrested and questioned because his fingerprints were found all over Ruth's apartment. And it's a really kind of funny scene because it's a small town. Whenever they pull up to arrest him, he answers the door. He knows pretty much, they know each other, right? And his wife, instead of being like, why is my husband getting arrested? What's going on? She's like, but we have dinner guests. Guests are coming for dinner. Like, she's more upset about the inconvenience of her dinner plans than she is about the actual situation that's happening. But
like Tracy, there is a glint in her eye that there's more to her story, which we learn about more in part 2.
And Bill Hastings is the school principal locally.
Right.
So it is a real scandal whenever he's arrested for murder.
Let me ask you this. Because at one point, several years ago, I was actually on board with this. Now I'm okay completely with the way it is. Somebody brought up to me saying, why is Bill Hastings the principal in South Dakota? Why couldn't they have made him the principal of Twin Peaks High? Like, why isn't this investigation happening in Twin Peaks? And at first I thought, you know what, that would have been great because that would have brought Gordon and Albert to Twin Peaks the entire time, would have tied us back in with the school where Laura's picture is. We could have seen that in the hallway more. Now I don't really care. Now I think South Dakota's fine. But originally I thought, it would have been better to kind of tighten it all up into the town of Twin Peaks itself. But again, I think Frost and Lynch are trying to say that this is no longer, because Mr. C is out in the world, this is no longer just confined to the small town of Twin Peaks. The Black Lodge is now worldwide because he's been out there. So it's been seeping out into the world. It's getting further and further throughout everywhere.
Yeah.
even to Paris as we later go
Yeah.
into the series.
I like it because, like we said, it expands the universe. And it reminds me, if you ever, I know Fargo the movie, but if you ever saw Fargo the TV series, it kind of does the same thing where it's like more small towns besides just Fargo.
So then we cut to Hawk coming into the conference room with some case files. Andy and Lucy come in. This is our kind of reintroduction to Andy. One note I said, and I put this online, and somebody actually came back with a really good comeback, which I said, he says that's late and they have to get up early to go through these files. But if you look behind him, it's daylight. And I said, why is Hawk saying that it's late when it's clearly still daytime? And somebody responded back saying, well, obviously the closer you get to Canada, when Twin Peaks is supposed to be 12 miles west of the state line, right? And 5 miles south of Canada, at 10 o'clock at night, it's still daylight in the summertime, especially.
Or maybe he has a really good like work home life balance. And he's like, it's late in the workday. I got to get home.
I know. He's probably like, hey, this case is 25 years old. This can wait until tomorrow, 7 a.m.
Yeah. So, but I do appreciate that Hawk is like getting right to work. He's pulling out the old boxes and everybody's like, what's missing? What's going on? And Lucy, I'm pretty sure, is the one that says, well, Agent Cooper's missing. They don't ever expect Lucy to be brilliant sometimes, but she can be. And the reason why she holds on to this so much is because Lucy and Andy's son, Wally, is 24, and Cooper's never even met Wally.
Then we come back to Matthew Lillard, who is in the interrogation room. And between this and a later one with Krista Bell, he's so good at these interrogation room scenes. And of course, we get some background that Dave and Bill go way back. And then we get to meet another officer from another town who's coming to assist. There are so many characters and so many names that the first time you see season 3, it is overwhelming.
And I'm not good at remembering names.
There's a lot of story, so much so that I think it takes a few, at least, maybe more viewings all the way through to really grasp everything that's happening, because there's so much character depth and detail built into this that it's not just creating a world and a story, it's creating so many layers. But every time you watch it again, it does feel like you're peeling another part of the onion.
It's never boring to rewatch Twin Peaks. Yeah, we learned that Mackley and Bill, they're fishing buddies. So that's why he's the one to interrogate him, because they have that history together, and he thinks maybe Bill will share more information with him. Bill never does share any information, because from his performance alone, you get the sense that like he doesn't know what's going on. When they finally tell him that he is suspicious of murder, and Ruth, was a coworker of his, right? And they had a staff meeting that night, and he's explaining that he went home, and then he realizes, like, he has a moment where he realizes he has a lapse in time in his memory, and that's when he says, I need to speak to my lawyer, because from the performance, like, you could think that he's the killer and he's just playing dumb, but it does seem like he's genuinely confused and doesn't know what's going on.
And even though he played Stu in Scream, we just naturally want to like the guy, because he's
I was suspicious. I was.
Really?
The first time I watched it, I really just was like, well, I thought definitely like he was possessed. I was like, okay, he's been possessed and he doesn't remember it.
Oh, okay. So maybe like a Bob or Mike situation.
Yeah.
Well, spoilers for the next part is we are brought back to his house the next scene, and we see Phyllis again, who's still concerned about these people coming to dinner. They need to search the house, but her mind is preoccupied to something else. But we do hold on her a little bit, and then we find out in part 2 that she is working with or for Mr. C. So she definitely played a role in getting Bill's fingerprints all over that apartment.
the camera focuses on her, who again just seemed like she couldn't care less, because she's like, okay, you guys are searching my house, but just know these people are coming for dinner. But then the camera holds on her, and she's like just watching them with a frown search through his things. And her acting, it does seem like she's not like, what? My husband is blah, blah, blah. Like, you kind of wonder, like, oh, is he a bad man to her in private? Because she doesn't seem surprised.
No, she sold him out for Mr. C.
Yeah.
Because Mr. C has his hand in everything.
He really does.
in this world here. One thing that I noticed on this watch is when they pop open the trunk and Dave is searching the trunk and he says, oh, you'll have to forgive me, my flashlight's not working.
Yeah, the flashlight's flickering.
That made me think immediately to the pilot when they're in the morgue and the light is flickering above Laura and the guy says, you'll have to forgive me, I think this is a bad transformer. So then I thought, okay, now we know that was a happy accident in the pilot, but now they can plan things. So my thought is, because the stuff with the dog and all that has been planted by Mr. C in the trunk of Bill Hastings' car, or even by Phyllis, but by extension, Mr. C, that whenever you're around someone or something that has been touched by the Black Lodge, electricity is not going to work correctly.
Yeah.
Because they feed off electricity.
They feed off of it. I feel like they can teleport through electricity.
Absolutely.
Like traveling through light, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely a surefire sign that something mysterious is happening.
Well, in Fire Walk With Me, we know that that's the reason why Leland/Bob broke the TV before he killed Teresa, because he heard the coming through it. And so he knew Mike was going to come through to stop him from killing Teresa. So he smashed the TV to stop any electrical current in the room so Mike couldn't teleport in there and stop him. So the fact that the flashlight's not working, and then of course that reminds me of the transformer and the pilot and the morgue.
That's a good connection.
I never even thought about it until I was rewatching it this time, and I'm thinking, you know what? He's near something that was touched by the Black Lodge. Laura was killed by the Black Lodge. And so the electricity just cannot handle that kind of power.
Yeah. And there's something I wanted to mention about the interrogation scene, but I forgot to bring it up when we were talking about it. We know David Lynch, he loves his sound design. He spends so much attention to detail, like crafting the sound design and making it sound perfect. So all throughout the episode, there's always something like sonically that's happening in the background. But during the interrogation scene, there is no sound. It is just them talking, and it really adds to the intensity of that scene.
Yeah, so they're searching the trunk. We don't quite see it yet, but they do say wolf, and we know that they're in later parts that they find a dog leg, but we see sort of like some flesh in the back of the trunk.
It looks like human jerky.
And then that's where we went to part 2 on the first night, but instead now we cut back to the giant fireman looking at the gramophone and the credits roll.
Yeah, and the ending, we keep talking about the sound, but the quiet ambient sound of the giant in that other place with the scratching of the sonograph, or whatever it's called. That's what we end the episode on, and it's so sweet to go there and hear that fade out.
Wyndham Earle was on the hunt for the Black Lodge.
Yeah, and the Black Lodge, for listeners, when we talk about the Black Lodge, like that's the red room with the chevron floors and the red curtains.
Correct. So Mark Frost and the other writers called it the Black Lodge, and David Lynch, for the most part, would just call it the Red Room. But he also called it Black Lodge in the Fire Walk With Me script. But that could have been Bob Engel's input. But anyway, so Wyndham Earle in the back half of season 2 is looking for the Black Lodge. And he talks about it being the source of all power. And he wants to claim that power for himself. But in scrutinizing it, he really should have been looking for the White Lodge. Because the entities of the Black Lodge cannot get into the White Lodge, but the giant can get into the Black Lodge and out. So he's more powerful than all of them. So Winter Earl messed up, basically. Went into the Black Lodge, and without even a moment's hesitation, they claimed his soul. The doppelganger is the dark half of Dale Cooper. He also has Bob inside of him, and inside Bob are all the souls that he has killed. So there's layers upon layers upon layers. And we'll get into it in part 2, but they do answer it between the final dossier and part 2. We do find out not only what happens to Leo Johnson, but we find out why Mr. C has that briefcase with him, that metal briefcase with him. But yeah, part 1.
That's where it ends. It ends with, Bill seeming to be the one that put together that mutilated body. They found the flesh in his trunk, and then we're back with the giant, and that's where we leave off. So what are your final thoughts?
This is a hell of a way to begin a new series having to do with Twin Peaks. It not only broadens everything that has come before, but it also is situating us into this new world and giving us context, and also communicating with the past seasons and the movie and the missing pieces to kind of give us this complete experience. And, there's that famous line in season 2, which is a little on the nose, but everyone loves it, which is, I have no idea where this will take us, but it will lead us to a place both wonderful and strange.
Yeah.
I think when you watch part 1 and part 2 together or separately, you don't know where it's going the first time you sit and watch it, but you are so in love with this world that you're willing to just go on the ride.
Yeah. I love that. I love how there is no nostalgia bait here present at all in this first episode. We just get a cold cut to these plot lines that seem to have very little bearing to Twin Peaks as we knew it. But it's its own thing, and it's letting you know that it's its own thing. It gets better the more you watch it because you know where things go, you can pick up on clues, and you have no expectations. You can appreciate the humor upon a rewatch because you're not anticipating where the mystery is going to go. Okay, I know where the mystery is going to go. I'm going to sit back and enjoy it and laugh along with it. And it is packed full of Lynchian humor. And I think this is as experimental as you're ever going to get with a network television show. And I love it for that.
Or even a cable television show.
Yeah.
I felt very nostalgic when I first watched it, just because, again, coming back into the school, seeing Laura's picture, then with, even though the doppelganger is this new thing, at the same time, though, it is carrying the story and the themes of the previous series. So it's again, it's not nostalgic in where it's rehashing what came before, but it's nostalgic in hey, you guys wanted another incarnation of Twin Peaks? Well, here we go,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it is just so brilliant that, the 25-year time jump, we're back with the characters, and the characters themselves have aged. Every other TV show I've seen do time jumps, they don't have the actors actually age because there is no real passage of time. They're just continuing to film the show. So it's super special.
I love watching the series. I love discussing it with you. And Twin Peaks, even if there's some things that I may not like, or there's some character arcs that I kind of go, I wish you could have done this differently. Overall, Twin Peaks is about as perfect of a series as somebody could make. And it just makes me happy watching it.
Yeah, I agree. Happy, but it is such a devastating show.
Yes, we are dealing with a different form of pain and sorrow in this incarnation.
It's not as fresh, but it's still there.
Yeah, it's like the smells of a burnt engine oil. It's lingering in the air. All right. Well, this was very exciting to discuss this with you and with all of you. Let us know in the comments if you like this. Give a
Tell
thumbs
us
up.
your theories, your interpretations on the episode. Would love to hear from you guys.
And be on the lookout because we're going to be doing one of these for each of the subsequent 17 parts. So I hope you will continue the journey with us. So thank you so much for watching and listening wherever you are finding this discussion. And we will see you soon. Take it easy. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.